My name is Adrian Nantchev, and this channel is all about helping you become a remarkable entrepreneur. So click on the subscribe button below and press the bell notification right next to it for the latest uploads. Now, what is NLP? I am by no means a professional at NLP, but let me tell you now, it's a very fascinating subject to understand and apply some stuff. There's a lot to it. It's all about the mind. It's about how we act and think and feel and behave. And as a matter of fact, NLP is hypnosis. When people say I'm a hypnotist, well, it's really they just know NLP to the point where they're experienced enough where they can showcase it and turn it into show business. You are getting sleepy, all that kind of stuff. NLP. All NLP. NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. So neuro-linguistic, the synapses in the brain, how the brain functions, how it works, the blind spots and the ways it trips itself over, or its logical fallacies, or its fallacies in general, how it's illogical at times, and yet it thinks it's totally rational and totally logical. When as a matter of fact, the mind isn't always rational or logical. So it's quite irrational. Interestingly enough, as a quick side note, it's quite predictably unpredictable, meaning that you can kind of predict how that predictable or unpredictable people will behave. So it's interesting. So NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, the brain, the synapses, programming, how to work with it, how to manipulate it, how to control it, how to push it in certain directions. There's some interesting strategies with NLP that are very fascinating, to say the least. There's one called embedded command. Embedded command, and that's all about taking an instruction you want to do, like sit down, please sit down, please sit down, please sit down. So what they'll do with an embedded command is they'll have the instruction sit down highlighted differently in the way they say it and the way the body language. They'll go like, please sit down, or won't you please go over there. And they'll have a different tonality or a break or a hand gesture. Won't you please sit down? So it's like a way. It's interesting. It's like a way of those words are bypassing the conscious mind, going straight into the subconscious, and the subconscious mind is originating that instruction, and you're doing it, you're acting it. And it's interesting where some people have said to me, I don't know why I'm telling you this stuff or why I'm doing this, but for you I will do it. And it's like, yeah, you don't know, but I know why. So this is also why words are very important, where you don't want to say to people like, you're an idiot. Never, not even once. Because as soon as that phrase goes into their brain, and even as I say that to myself, I have to mentally, not quite easily battle it back and say, don't listen to it, just an example. Because you see, the brain is like still a sponge, the subconscious mind is still a sponge, and the subconscious mind does not differentiate positive or negative words or instructions, as well as the word don't or do not. The word, if you see a sign saying do not touch the fence, the brain only recognises the touch the fence bit. It does not recognise the don't. So you have to flip it to the opposite. So rather than saying you're an I word, you have to say you're smart, you're a good guy, you know your stuff. This is kind of like also affirmations work in entrepreneurship, but that's also got other things as well. But you have to be very careful what you say to yourself, and this is also why you have these disempowering beliefs, or these kind of like beliefs or thoughts that put you down, even though you recognise they're idiocy or stupid stuff that you would have picked up at a young age that has a ripple effect till today. And you have to literally deprogram your brain to like negate or cancel out those beliefs and literally reprogram your brain so as to change your thoughts and your thought pattern and your attitude and your behaviour and your mindset. Some serious heavy stuff here, crazy stuff. So in NLP, you've got to be careful what you say to yourself, what you allow into your brain, what kind of words, language and instructions you allow. But also at the same time, it's worthwhile looking into some of these things to know how they work, so apply them in negotiations, in strategy, in life. There's a classic one which is, would it be okay if? Would it be okay if? Or would it be okay if I sat down? Would it be okay if you did this? Would it be okay if I did that? Would it be okay? That's a way of, the way that works is, what happens is, would it be okay? And the person straight away, like almost like a Pavlovian response. Like, it must be a cultural thing or a genetic thing. I don't know, but it's like okay, and it's like it would be okay, yeah. And it's like, would it be okay to have a £5 note? Oh yeah, sure, here it is, sure. Doesn't always work, but the success rate is high. Another one is interesting. Because, using the word because is in there. So if I say things like, would it be okay if I jump in front of the queue because I've only got a handful of potatoes? Would it be okay I jump in front of the queue because I've only got one thing to buy? If I've got toothpaste, for example. Would it be okay if I can go in front of you, or if I can do this or go there because whatever reason? So interesting little because there. People also talk about mirroring, mirroring the person's body language. This does work, but you've got to be careful that it's not literally what they're doing straight away all the time. Have a delay, and have it. Don't just go from this position to that position. Have it natural. So if you go from here, relaxed, leaning backward to this, make it so the conversation is kind of like giving the body language the excuse or introducing it. So if I'm like this and you're saying something that I've never heard before, and I'm like, really? What, eh? And they're doing this as well. Did you know this? Did you remember? I'm like, what? It's like that. It's much more natural rather than going from there to here and copying them. But also, I heard from an FBI agent when it comes to interrogation that to go one step further for mirroring, don't just mirror their body language. That's quite basic, which I suppose it is. One step further would be to repeat the last 3 words they said. So if they say something like, how are you doing today? So doing today, yeah, I'm doing. Or you doing today, if it makes sense. You doing today? Yeah, I'm doing pretty well today. What about yourself? So repeat the last 3 words. And also, it's interesting, that also helps to build rapport. So does the mirroring as well. We're building rapport by, we instinctively like people that are like ourselves. So if you're saying the same words back to them, like in a restaurant, repeat the same words back to them, you're building rapport. Or in a negotiation, we want to get 3 million of this. Yeah, 3 million of that. Okay, you want 3 million of that. Okay, cool. It builds rapport because we like people that are like ourselves, or people that we want to be and emulate. Another one that's interesting, if I can remember what it's called now, something like Virginia poses. Virginia something or other. There's this woman in the 1960s or 50s or 70s that was doing some studies looking at couples in relationships, like a marriage counsellor, and she noticed that when the partner said certain phrases, they inhibited certain body poses. I've got it written down, so Virginia something or other. I can't remember exactly, but V poses or I think it's that. I can't remember, but if you have certain body language poses that helps to articulate what you're doing, what you mean. Like if you do like this pose, for example, it calms people down, like stop, and the hands palming down is like that. And a similar one will be hands palming upwards, so like let's go, or gentlemen, what should we do? Something like that. But the one I like the most is to have a asymmetrical body pose. So I'll lean this way, hand here. This one is going down here. I don't know. It does something, but I can't remember what it's called. It does something where it's like you're more trustworthy or more believable. Because if you're this, it's like a natural response. I suppose I'm thinking about it now and reasoning that I don't know. It's natural response. It's very symmetrical, but this, for example, I don't know. It's very asymmetrical, meaning it's not symmetrical. But this is you can't not reflect it over. So when it's asymmetrical, it's more trustworthy, I believe. I can't remember exactly, but that's some fascinating stuff to look into. I can't remember. Virginia poses. I can't remember her name exactly, but some poses are interesting stuff. And you got pacing and leading. It's interesting. This is where it gets really manipulative. Pacing and leading, or switching and baiting, I believe it's called advertising, where you can say 3 statements, or 4, I can't remember, but certainly 3. The first one is definitely true, like no question about it. Second one is like 90% or 80% true, and no real question about it. And the third one is like 50% true or completely made up. But because people have said yes once and yes twice, they're going to say yeah again to the third thing. And that can be quite devilish. And bait and switch is where you advertise a certain product, like this thing they're going to get, but buy product X. But when they actually ship it, they actually receive it, it's actually like something else, like something shoddy or some bit of false advertising. So that's something interesting to look into. Pacing and leading, actually, yeah, pacing and leading. Something true, something not so true, something definitely false, or if it's true, definitely true, something definitely false, the more inclined to believe this one because they've said yes already 2 times. And that's another thing interesting about psychology, where if you get people to say yes all the time, it's getting them, yeah, I'll do that, yeah, I'll do it, yeah, yes, say yes 3 times, and they're more inclined to go ahead with what they said. But as a side note, a slight caveat to this, I've noticed that in British culture, I don't know if it's culture or mindset or attitude or whatever it is, but not everyone is trustworthy in the UK. You ask them, can you do this for me, like by this time tomorrow? The chances are they don't. Or can you do this in 10 minutes? They don't. I don't know if it's a memory thing or a culture thing, but it's like, can you do this please? And they don't do it. So it's like, Again, I don't know if it's memory, they're just in one ear out the other, or culture thing, or yeah, I'll get to it, just forget about it, or what, but that's another thing. So, the question of the question of the day to you is, what are you most curious about NLP? What are you most curious about it? Everything about it. It's fascinating stuff. Milton model, beyond. So what are you most curious about NLP? Answer below. But in the meantime, however, click on the subscribe button below and press the bell notification right next to it for the latest uploads, because this channel is all about helping you become a remarkable entrepreneur. How cool is that?